don't see it live. I think it's going. You guys see it? Oh, I gotta press play. Okay, I see it now. Cool. Okay, let's let everybody in.
All righty.
Here we go. Oh, I like Rob Smith's picture.
Which one? Hey, this is cool. Hey, we have the giraffe. I see.
The giraffe. Hey, I like the giraffe.
Hey, everybody. Carl's here. Lynn. We have to can we unmute Lynn? Can you see Juan? Can you see Lynn? Wizicki, is that how you say your name? I need to know how to pronounce my.
Okay, I got Lynn is unmuted. Go ahead, Lynn.
It's Wizicki.
Wizicki. Okay, now you can mute.
That's a lot easier than I thought it would have been.
Yeah. Anyway, she's a great photographer, a good friend, and it's great to see everyone here. Yep. And I think we should start out, right, Alec, by one of our moderators here, by thanking Juan for putting all this together on Facebook Live.
Absolutely,
yeah, guys. This is the first photo happy hour that we're broadcasting on Facebook Live, so that other people can actually join in and watch and listen and learn with us. And as Alec told me to say, watch out for new things coming.
Yes,
we're going to be making a few changes as well.
And
so our first change is this Facebook Live thing.
And speaking of new, I see Phyllis Webster. How are you, Phyllis? I see her down there waving. Yeah. She was one of the people, along with Linda, on Tuesday who said, what happened to Phototherapy Tuesday? Well, it's coming back this Tuesday, but at a different time. Right, Juan? I think it's
right. At 3 p.m.
3 o'clock. So we're making a lot of changes. As Alec knows, he's been with the phototherapy from day one. We're growing pretty fast, right, Alec?
We are. We're just shy of 1,300 people heading into the weekend.
Wow, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. So we want to welcome everyone, and we have a special, very special, super special, ultra talented guest, Linda Marshall. You know, what we try to do on phototherapy is we try to have, like, I'm looking for the days of the week here. We try to have different themes for each day, like meditation Mondays, which is what Linda's going to do. Phototherapy Tuesday, Words of Wisdom Wednesday, Analyze This Thursday, and Meet the Photo Mentors Friday. So this Monday, June 1st, Linda's going to kick off her Monday meditation session. So Linda, can you tell our group about this, please? Pretty please. Oh, we have to unmute Linda, right?
So hold on. So go ahead, unmute yourself, Linda. There you
go. Okay, I'm unmuted. So, well, first, thank you for welcoming me. Thanks, Rick, Juan, and Alec, and to the rest of the group. Just so you know a little bit about me, I'm Linda Marshall. I would define myself as a transformational coach. I'm certified to teach meditation through the Chopra Institute. I'm a certified life and career coach, and I balanced that over an extensive corporate career. And so personally, I have meditated for the past 30 years. And as I like to say, it is something that helped me with an active, hyper-vigilant mind and imagination.
Oh.
And that would be a worrier, find peace, calm, and just a more enlightened state of being. And so because I'm so passionate just about helping people manage stress and anxiety, when Rick and I were talking, I just thought it would be a wonderful tool to offer to our group here. And at the most basic level, some people will say, well, I can't meditate. And I'm like, meditation is just about stilling the mind. It's taking your thoughts from what you're worrying about to the space in between your thoughts. And so that's the kind of fun that I hope that we can have every Monday. The sessions will last about 20 minutes. I spend the first couple of minutes every time with a theme so that we have something that we're meditating on. And I just look forward to having you join me on the journey. So if you're planning to join us Monday at 12 p.m. Eastern time, I'll give you something to think about over the weekend. So the theme for Monday will be I am. And the question for you to ponder is, who are you? Think of all the titles, all the labels, all the relationships, and that's a pretty big question. So we're going to meditate on the simplest level of, I am. So hope you can join us. Looking forward to it. And as we started, if you've got feedback, things you'd like to do, just let me know.
And Linda, what's your website so people can contact you directly?
It's www.lindamarshall.org. And so on there, I even have meditations that you can download if you want to do that on your own, and other resources tying back to meditation.
You know, this sounds really interesting. I'm going to be there. You've convinced me that I can actually meditate, someone as hyper as I am, right?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
I may be there just to see if Rick can actually meditate.
Well,
Because anybody that knows Rick, he's he's very hyper, kind of going from thing to thing. So it'll be interesting to see if he can meditate. And if you can accomplish that, Linda, you'll be my hero.
Oh, okay. Okay.
There is an over under on the 20 minutes and how long Rick can sit still.
Well, Rick, we don't meditate for the full 20. So
you told me when I play guitar I meditate, right?
You go into that.
That's true.
Yeah.
But you know what's all
and
kidding.
For many of the photographers on this call, when you're holding your camera, when you're doing your post processing, when you're figuring out how to bring that photo to life, you kind of go in that zone. Well, it would be wonderful to be in that zone, even when you don't have the camera in your hand. And so that's one of the things that meditation helps you do.
So the topic for Monday again is?
I am.
I am. Well, actually, in my presentation here, which was inspired by Alec, we want to thank Alec for coming up with today's topic, photographs that illustrate peace, love, and joy. And I woke up this morning and I wasn't feeling that happy for happy hour. So Alec is one of my trusted, good, longtime, honest friends. And anyway, he said, why don't we just do it and come up with a good theme? So I have pictures that are going to illustrate peace, love, and joy. But in this presentation, I hope all you guys could stick around to the end. I talk about something that might be related to what you're talking about, finding one's inner superpower.
Mm-hmm.
And we all have a superpower. Like Carlos Santana is a great guitar player. But if you ask him what a superpower is, not mentioning guitar or music, he might say meditation. He might say he's a very spiritual person, right? He knows how to connect with people, which is what we're going to talk about today. So I can't wait. I can't wait till Monday. So anyway, that is the topic for today. I'm going to show some pictures first, some people pictures. I tell people that my specialty is not specializing, but when it comes down to it, excuse me, I really love photographing people. And then Juan's going to take over with some inspirational landscape photographs and some wildlife.
Sure.
And he's going to talk about how we
Just a hodgepodge of different things.
And he's going to talk about, well, Juan Pons is one of the best wildlife photographers I know. So I wouldn't really call it a hodgepodge. and why, by the way, Juan spent a long time setting this up. So he's a very dedicated person. So I don't know about the hodgepodge business. So anyway, I'm going to start sharing the screen. If you guys have any questions.
Hold on, Rick, before you do that, let's share what we're drinking, right?
Let me stop. Okay. I am drinking white wine.
So what are you drinking?
I'm drinking white wine, which is what I was drinking in the bar behind me.
Oh, and you, Alec, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking coffee today.
Well, he's the moderator. He kicks people out.
Yeah, he's got to have a fast finger on that mouse to be able to kick people out. Well, I'm
and watching multiple platforms, so
that's right.
And Juan?
Well, this is you're saying Rick superpower. This is one of my superpowers is making cocktails. This is a pomegranate cosmopolitan.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Very yummy. Yeah.
And Freddie Clark is drinking beer. I'm going to unmute Freddie for a second. What are you drinking, Freddie?
A Citra Pale Ale from Cigar City Brewing.
Ooh, that sounds good.
It is very good. Yes.
Freddie is a great food photographer and beer photographer. Alec has taken a workshop from him. So we're glad to see everyone here. So now let me try to get to this screen, sharing this. Again, if you guys have any questions, I'm sharing it and now I can play. So I'm just checking that you guys can all see this, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I put together, several photographs that illustrate, I think, peace, love, and joy, because with all that's going on in the world, I think we need some peace, love, and joy. And again, I want to thank Alec for coming up with this. But I've been thinking this way since 1969 when I was at Woodstock. And if the lockdown continues here in New York, my hair is going to be this long pretty soon.
I was going to ask if you were in a lockdown then also.
To tell you the truth, I don't really remember being there, so I can't really tell you. No, but this was a great experience. But seriously, peace, love, and joy. And I think I still, these guys, to the people who were watching, they were kind of kidding me before by being all over the place and all spaced out a little. And I think I'm still the same person. I'm 70 now, but I still believe in what I believed in then. So again, we want to thank our good friend, moderator, Alec, who has been on a bunch of workshops, a good photographer. He's gotten into bird photography lately, and he's learned a lot about bird photography from Juan, and I've been getting into this lately, so we want to thank Juan. So anyway, if you guys have questions, if you want to take screenshots of any of this stuff, please don't do it. I'm only kidding. If you want to take screenshots of any of this, please feel free to do it, because it's a good way to remember. But this is also recorded one, right? So,
yep, this is being recorded automatically on Facebook. So if anybody wants to go back and watch this later, they can do that on Facebook.
That's cool. So anyway, when we're photographing people, this is my number one tip, that the camera looks both ways. In picturing the subject, you're also picturing a part of yourself, meaning the mood, the feeling, the emotion, the body language, the energy, right, Linda? The energy that you're projecting, that's going to be reflected in your subject's face and in their body language. An easier way to say that is that you're a mirror. But, you could see how you could look at this girl that I photographed in Nepal. You could see how happy I was when I photographed her. So I put my finger on her nose and she did the same thing. We also have some nice catch light in the eyes. So oftentimes I move a subject. She was in the harsh sunlight. I moved her into the shade. So the soft, flattering side lighting, you can see the side lighting. We're going to talk more about that later. But that little bit of shadow adds a sense of depth and dimension, and the catch light makes the subject come alive. And you could see me in there. But here's the thing, wherever I go, I try to respect the subject, because the subject knows immediately if you respect them. So respect is so important in people photography. Here's another tip: see eye to eye and shoot eye to eye. And this way you can make a connection. So I photographed this young bride in Kenya. I think she's about 12 or 13 years old. The picture on the left is a boring snapshot. You can see I'm looking down on looking down on her a little. But look at the picture on the left. I'm getting down and I'm seeing eye to eye. And here I'm not making, funny faces or putting my finger on my nose. I wanted to get a very serious expression. So see eye to eye and shoot eye to eye. Also, I moved her into the doorway of her hut. She was out. You can see on the right, you can see part of the hut, the doorway there. But I wanted this nice studio type background. So I made the picture by moving it just inside the doorway. Another tip technically is always expose for the highlights. I don't want the highlights overexposed and washed out. That's why we have detail in that bright silver chain and in part of her headdress. Just two more examples of seeing eye to eye, and also the guy on the left. This guy, I think he's in the Guinness Book of World Records, won an Alex for having like the best beer, the best beard out there. But look at the picture on the right. You could see how I was feeling. My mother was dying. I was in Cambodia, and we're photographing this Buddhist monk in Angkor Wat, and he's talking about life and the meaning of life. And we're in the harsh sunlight again, so we just moved into the shade. We have that side lighting again, and we have that nice catch light in his eyes. So he could tell that I respected him. So when I go places, and when you go places, you just can't run up to someone and take a picture. What I do is a picture of me with much shorter hair than I had at Woodstock and have now. I do magic tricks. And Susan, who's listening over at the house, she took this picture. And this is a great way to get people to like you and accept you. And this is what I try to do. This is my, maybe Linda could analyze this. When I photograph people in foreign lands, this is my goal. I try to get people to like me and accept me, because then I can take their photograph. So we have to remember that we have to look at their faces. This is a 4/4 magic trick that I think Linda and Alec and Juan have probably seen me do. Another thing we want to do is we want to ask questions and we want to learn about the subject. I photographed this woman deep in the rainforest of Brazil. I'm sure a lot of you guys watching this wonder, why do they paint their faces like that? Well, I wondered the same thing too. And I'm shooting eye to eye, by the way, and I'm using a telephoto lens with a wide aperture to blur the background. She had this beautiful flower in her hair. But I said, why do you paint your faces? And she said, through the translator, our guide, said that when we go into the rainforest, the spirits of the rainforest help us with our hunt and they protect us. So traveling and learning and understanding and appreciating what other people do. I'm smiling because I would like to say some other things about what's going on in the world, but learning what's important to other people, I think is just so very, very important. Another tip here is make a picture, and we want to observe the light. And down at the bottom, you see Linda. She talked about stillness. And this picture has a very calming, still feeling to it. So yes, I might be totally hyper to some people on camera and stuff like that and on workshops. But here, it was just such a still moment. And we made this picture. Actually, Susan and I, we spent a couple of days looking for a novice monk. I saw pictures like this on the web all over the place, in National Geographic, in Buddhist temples, and, with the candles and everything, and we couldn't find it. So I asked the guide, I said, do you think you could find us a temple? So he said, I could do better than that. He gets on his cell phone, he calls up the local monastery, talks to the head Buddhist monk, said, could you send over 2 novice monks? And the monk gave his blessing and did that. And they came over, and on the way back, our guide stopped at the supermarket and picked up some candles. So my guess is that most of the pictures you've seen recently of novice monks in temples like this, whether it's in Sri Lanka, Myanmar, this is in Myanmar, are set up shots. But think about this. When you go places, you want to be like a movie director. You want to be like Francis Ford Coppola. If he goes there, is he just going to, take a boring picture in the dark? No, he's going to make the picture. Just one more tip here before we move on from the stillness. If you want, this is a tip from Joe McNally. If you want an interesting photograph, don't light the subject's entire face. So through the guide, I'm directing this novice monk to move the candle to the left, to the right, up and down, further away, closer, and stuff like that. And people ask, do you pay? And yes, we pay, and we make a donation to the monastery. So anyway, speaking of stillness, I just want to give Linda another shout out. Meditation Mondays, noon Eastern time. Definitely tune in and look at the catchlight in her eyes. She has 2 catchlights in her eyes. So I can't wait for that. Another tip is, and I'm going to be done by 5:30. So Juan, we could turn this over to my good, talented friend, Juan. We want to communicate with the subject. And again, around the world, this is what we want to do. We want to communicate in a good way. Technically, this is a fill-in shot, a fill-in flash shot. We're lighting the subject because you can see the bright light behind her coming through the windows. I'm shooting at an angle like I did the Buddhist monk to add a sense of depth and dimension in the scene. I open the windows. So I'm balancing the light from the flash to the available light. We have a nice catch light there. But going for gesture, through the guide, I'm talking to her because I want to get to know the subject, just like I did with the girl in the rainforest. And she's telling me about her boyfriend. So I said that his boyfriend was coming. So I said, why don't you just stand by this pole and look down the hallway there. Think about that you're looking for your boyfriend. So this picture tells a story, and I communicated with her. But then I wanted to get a spontaneous reaction. So what I did is I was ready to shoot. I said, when was the last time you kissed your boyfriend? And I got this reaction. So I see Linda Marshall laughing there. But this is a precious picture to me. And all these pictures are precious. And actually, sometimes I get a little emotional and sad because these people have forgotten about me. But probably. But they're with me like forever. Another picture from Myanmar. A couple of tips here. Again, if you want an interesting portrait, don't like the subject's face. Another one, use the cheek as a background for the nose. You see how the nose isn't like sticking off the end of the cheek. And the background is making this picture. Now, here's the original shot. And I have what I call my one picture promise. And that promise is this, that if you're in a situation and you say to yourself, if I could only take one picture, what would that picture be? I promise you that you'll get a higher percentage of good pictures. So looking at this, even if you didn't see that picture before, excuse me, my guess is you'd say it's the novice monk on the right. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to get a nice shot of him. I used a duplex filter in Nik Color Effects Pro, and I bracketed my aperture because I didn't want the writing in the back on the wall to be too distinct, and I didn't want it to be too out of focus. So this is a good thing to do. What you want to do is when you're photographing wildlife or whatever, bracket your aperture, bracket your shutter speed too, to get exactly the picture you want. Another tip is place the subject off center. We're coming down the home stretch here. Susan and I were in Kenya, and we get to this village early in the morning, and we had this beautiful light. And getting back to my one picture promise, I said, you know, a lot of people have a picture like this. The light is bathing their faces. I mean, look at the colors here. We were lucky with the sky and everything. I'm exposing for the highlights here, a bunch of other tips. But if I can only take one picture, what would it be? It wouldn't be this. It would be this. So after they were finished, then the guys came in, and look at the joy on the faces of the guys, like on the bottom. I mean, this is a different type of picture. And after the slideshow is done, you might say, hey, next time I'm with the group, I might try a shot like this. So think about that one picture promise. Another tip is embrace the situation. Juan and I, we're doing a trip to Cuba next year, right? What month?
Yeah, in March next year.
We're doing a
2021.
trip to Cuba. The people in Cuba, I have a whole slideshow. One has a great slideshow of all the great people in Cuba. They're so welcoming, right? You go into their homes, right, Juan?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, Cuba is just an incredible place. We have Bill here who just went with me this past March. And I don't know if Steve is around, who was with me in last March as well. And Cuba is just an incredible place. I'm known for wildlife photography and landscape. I'm not known for cultural photography or people photography. But for me, Cuba is the one place that I make the exception for, because people are just so incredibly warm and caring, and they're curious. They want to learn about you. And it's just, kind of a place that's almost frozen in time.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, right? Because the architecture, the infrastructure, the cars, everything about it just makes you feel like you're in the 1950s. But to me, it's really about, there's two things. One is the people, and I do have to admit, is the food. The food is just absolutely incredible. Very, very good. And the people are super warm. And we do get to stay in people's homes. People have some little Airbnbs that you can go and stay with them. And they're really not Airbnbs. It's just they let out a room for you to stay in that has its own private bathroom. And that is just a neat experience, because not only do you get to meet these people and stay with these people, but they cook for you. So we have an incredible meal, home cooked meal. That's probably one of the best meals you have on the entire trip. Susan
and I would agree. We had a lobster dinner for two for like $12. But you mentioned the people, you mentioned the cars. You're like on a movie set because of the background. But there's one other thing, the drinks. Like anyone who comes on our trip, we can guarantee a good happy hour every night, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, the challenge is, for me personally, is I don't care for rum. So, rum is like the drink.
Yeah, and you don't want to get.
Everybody loves mojitos, and they love, Cuba Libres, rum and Coke. And they have some incredible rum, that's for sure. I can drink the rum there because it's so good, but it's just not my favorite drink.
Well, if Linda comes, you're not going to get good red wine, I don't think.
No, you're not. Well, some places you can get actually some good French wines. So they do import a lot of wines from Europe.
So anyway, the last
Oh
day,
yes, and Ropa Vieja is the
the
best.
ropa, old clothes, right? That's what it's.
Oh yeah,
that's what-
Linda is in here too, right? And Linda was with me in Cuba this past March. She's in here. Linda Allschuler.
Awesome. So anyway, embrace the situation. We're in Cuba. The last morning, we had a late flight, so I went out shooting, and I wanted to photograph the blue cars, because like these cars you're looking at, the one in the front might be a Pontiac, might have a Ford engine in it, a Plymouth carburetor, right? And
Right,
Toyota gear. I mean, that they keep these things running is amazing. But
Yeah,
anyway,
the cars are completely rebuilt. The only thing that's left behind is sort of the shell. Everything else is kind of new.
yeah, I know. It's amazing. So anyway, I'm photographing the cars, and I was trying to frame the car in the background with around the curve of the car in the foreground, getting down low, like I talked about last week, using my camera like a spaceship, like with people seeing eye to eye. Here I'm kind of like seeing eye to eye with the headlights. And this guy and his girlfriend come in, and he has a red shirt on. Now, some people who were working hard on a picture, like I was, might get a little unhappy, a little frustrated that things weren't going the way, because that car was obviously going to go away. But what I do is I always embrace the situation. I say, what could happen? So as soon as I saw that guy's red shirt, I thought about what a National Geographic photographer told me in 1978, before Juan was born. True?
No, I was born way before that.
Anyway, he told me that if you want the subject to stand out in the frame, have him or her wear red. So I thought, they jumped in the back seat. I don't know how I thought of this. I just said, because I don't speak Spanish, I said, I'm just going to go up and see if I could take their picture. So I go up, they're in the back seat, and I jump in the front seat, and I just snapped one of my favorite pictures, talking about people who forgot about me. But these people look at the smile on the girl's face. Look at the energy, just like that girl holding her nose. You guys know exactly how I was feeling when I took this picture. Now, we have catchlight in the eyes. Juan talked about the shell, look around the car. I had my flash with me. I could have used the flash. You saw with the girl from China, where I said I balanced the light from the flash to the available light, so it looked like a natural light shot. I could have used the flash, but I thought that maybe the bright windows would frame them. So here it doesn't matter. So the point is, like, break the rules and embrace the situation. I also think he has a really cool shirt out, but this really illustrates that the camera looks both ways. And when you're out, you want to turn on your radar. You always want to be looking for pictures. And everyone who's with us today should be so happy they're a photographer, because they're looking for pictures. They're not just seeing people around. A guy on the left was in a train station. He's giving me kind of like a little grin, like, I know you're taking my picture. I'm going to look kind of cool for you. Guy on the right was India. Just taken in a flower market. I asked him to move a little also for more flattering light. And Susan and I were walking in a village in Nepal, and I saw this girl, and through our guide, I said, hey, could she pose for us? And afterward, she asked the guide, why did he want to take my picture? And this is getting back to my one picture promise. There are hundreds of people in that village, and she was the one that I wanted to photograph. And all these pictures have something in common. And I think, honestly, to get a good picture, you have to fall in love with the subject, not fall in love romantically, but you have to say, and I know Juan does this, you want to say, I'd love to get this picture. So in my current book, Photo Quest, I have a chapter on your superpower. And I'd like to ask everyone here to think about their superpower as a photographer, what helps them make good pictures without mentioning photography. So I think one of my maybe superpower is connecting with the subject. So I'd like, again, to ask everyone, what's your superpower? But don't mention anything about photography. It might be a passion. It might be wanting to express yourself. It might be wanting to connect with people. It might be an urge to be an artist. It could be a lot of different things. So in the book, Photo Quest, Chapter 3, Finding Your Superpowers and Inner Voice, Juan Pons has a quote here, but I can't see the whole quote because I could, Juan, how can I get rid of can you see the whole quote? Juan?
Yes, I can.
Can you read it then, since it's your words? I should say, because I learned in Catholic school, since relates to times, because relates to why. So because you wrote the words. Go ahead.
Okay, and this is from your book, PhotoQuest, and it says, my superpower is getting in the zone, photographically speaking. When I have a subject of interest in front of me, I get completely immersed in observing and capturing my wildlife subjects and trying to make it the best image I can based on what I have researched about the species. Getting in the zone photographically allows me to think like my subject, predict its behavior, and position myself to make those great images. To me, this is the closest I get to a spiritual experience. It's like entering a meditative state.
How's that, Linda Marshall? Yeah. So I think this is, it's funny, like why we become friends with people. And it's definitely subconscious. Juan and I have known each other for a long time, and I think we've always loved each other. And Alec became friends, and Freddie became friends, and Linda, and the Cullivans, who I can't see everyone who's here, but I think that's another question we could ask ourselves. Why do we become friends with people and not become friends with other people? But speaking of Alex, he has a quote. I have a lot of quotes in the book, and he shared a quote from George Harrison, and I love it because I make a lot of mistakes. Like last week, the closer the light, the larger the light. What I was talking about the lighting, but anyway. With every mistake, we must surely be learning. I mean, this is from My Guitar Gently Weeps, and it's really good. So I think it's really important to keep making mistakes. So what's funny, Juan's going to be coming up soon with with his wildlife and landscape pictures. But getting back to that superpower, I love connecting with people, but I connect with the polar bear, with a leopard seal, with the chin strap penguin, the lion, a white rhino, a leopard, a wattle seal, and even underwater, I was connecting with a moray eel. So that's my part of today's happy hour. I'm going to stop screen sharing, and we could take questions, or Juan, you could start, and then we could take questions. It's up to you.
Well, why don't we take questions? Because you had a lot of images there, and we haven't seen any questions come up, which we usually do. From folks, does anybody have any questions for Rick before your images go out of everybody's mind? Make sure to to post them here on the chat in Zoom, or you can do that on Facebook if you're watching us on Facebook as well.
Yeah, I'm going to go on the Facebook page. Oh,
okay.
How's the beer in Cuba? How's the beer in Cuba?
Asking. So yeah, Freddie, unfortunately, the beer in Cuba, like in most hot climates, it's not the best. It's kind of watered down. It's so funny because they do have a couple of national brands, and you can get a few foreign brands, but they're usually much more expensive. And the national brands, there's like 3 different beers, and there's they call the Cristal, which is the really light beer. And then they have the Fuerte, or the dark, strong beer. And, they show one has a clear bottle, one's a dark bottle. You pour them both in a glass, you put them next to each other, and they're the same color. And if I swap them around, you wouldn't be able to tell which is which.
I like the Buccaneer beer, or they call it
right.
Buccaneer.
That's the strong one. Yeah. But it's, if you try the light one, it's the same flavor. At least, I can't tell the difference between them. And it's the same thing. Growing up, I grew up in Puerto Rico, which is also a very warm climate. And the Puerto Rican beers are all light beers because people drink them to get refreshed, right? They're kind of more watered down beers. They drink them really cold, and it's like a substitute for drinking water more than anything. They don't necessarily have, dark, strong beers. So, yeah.
Okay,
so Rick, we had a
Rick,
question here about model releases.
Yeah.
We had a question about model releases.
Yeah, well, when we went to China, as Linda knows, who was there with us, our guides got us the model releases for there because people were going to sell those pictures. So I use my pictures for educational purposes. So oftentimes I do not get a model release. I've lost some money because people wanted to use them to sell stuff, promote a product, but I use them for educational purposes. And I pay the people. So I'm getting something out of it, and they're getting something out of it.
So there's a couple of questions Brenda asks, and I know that a couple of others as we've scrolled through this, just connecting with people, right? And
Mhm.
how do you approach interesting strangers, right,
Mhm.
to get them to stand for you to make a picture? I know
Right.
you mentioned magic, but not everybody's going to go out and learn a few magic tricks.
Well, guess what? Every magic trick you've seen on TV by David Blaine or whomever, you could buy that magic trick at Tannen's Magic in New York City. Uh, I mean, some of these tricks aren't that hard to do. But seriously, my number one tip would be to smile, okay? And to smile. And again, the person knows if you respect the subject. And I see people. I don't want to generalize, but if I'm in a place, there's a guy on a motorcycle who looks like he doesn't want to be photographed, I'm not going to photograph him. So somehow or other, I think, not to get too deep into this, but I think people, they can feel your energy. And Linda's agreeing. And I think from, far away, they could feel your energy and they say, oh, is this guy stalking me to take a picture? Or is this guy a nice guy? So, and I always say, I pay people. I say, I'm happy to pay you and things like that. Or Susan, I never pay children. If you saw the movie Slumdog Millionaire, you'd know why you never pay children. So we were in a couple of places where through our guide, we made a donation to the local school.
Rick, one of the
But I
things
think
I responded a little bit on the comments here is, for those of us, because I'm one of those that don't really like to approach people. I'm always kind of intimidated by approaching people to get their picture, to take their picture. It helps go into a place where people love getting their picture taken. In a lot of Latin countries, including especially in Cuba, people love getting their picture taken. And that can be good and bad, because a lot of times people will see you with a camera and they'll pose for you because they love getting their picture taken. But that makes it a lot easier to take someone's picture when, people are eager to get their picture taken, and it makes it easier on you. So you build up a little bit of courage, if you will, for when you go to places where people may not be as photo friendly.
Yeah, I think also not being intimidating. Like, I don't look like a professional photographer when I go places. And we should have Susan on here sometimes, because she gets amazing pictures with her iPhone, because it's so not intimidating walking around with the iPhone, right?
Well, I mean, that's a great point, because, right, a lot of people walk around with a big DSLR and a 70 to 200 millimeter lens, and, they try to get up to people, and people are like, what is going on here? So that's a great point.
But all these tips that I gave, by the way, if you want to re-listen to them, you could I think they apply to people, in your family or your friends, right? Although right now they have masks on if you're close to them. But seriously, these tips.
There's also, I'm sorry, Rick, there's also a curiosity among people, you hit upon it, to see what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right. If you show them the types of pictures you're taking and you're willing to share the picture that you've taken of them with them, then they're willing to get involved.
Well, you saw that in China. We posed.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking about, because there was no language that we could connect with, and our guides were out of the way, but they were all very excited to see what we were doing and be part of what we were doing.
Yeah. It was good.
Okay. Oh, and there's a couple of questions here. People are asking whether you send pictures to people from time to time. Do you ask for email addresses to send a picture?
Yes. And Susan was listening. She's the one who gets the email addresses. So this is very important. And if you say you can do it and then you don't do it, then, if Freddie Clark goes there, after we go there, they're not going to be so kind to Freddie Clark or Mike and Linda Cullivan or Joe Paul or some of the other, right? Or anybody. So,
yeah, I mean, I've had clients, I've helped clients send pictures to people they tried to. So, I mean, one example was in Cuba. There's in a little town that we go in and stay in people's homes. There's a street sweeper that I've seen there for years. I've been going to Cuba now, I don't know, for 5-6 years. And there's the same street sweeper that is there every year. Every time I go, he's out sweeping and whatnot. And, I've had people take his picture and him ask to get the pictures. And I've actually made arrangements to get prints, because the person didn't have an email or anything. I didn't even have an address for the person, but I was able to get my guides to bring him the picture. And the next year when I saw him, he was all happy that he got a picture from one of my people that came on the trip. So I agree. I think that's important, especially if you're going to say you're going to do it.
Awesome.
Okay. So, so hold on here. I'm going to bring up. So, I'm not a primarily a people photographer. I'm more a landscape and wildlife photographer. So my images are going to be a little different than what you saw Rick do. And what I was trying to do with some of the images, the hodgepodge of images that I have, is kind of show a little bit of calmness and connection with the landscape or the animals that we're seeing. And Rick, I don't know if you remember this. This is
Mount Rainier.
The workshop that you and I met at.
Yeah.
This was in Mount Rainier. I don't know. Was it like 14, 15 years ago? Something like that?
Oh my God. I don't know.
Yeah, this was a long time ago. Just basically, I think the day after we met is we actually went out and to Reflection Lakes and in Mount Rainier. And this is a place that I love, and I love going back. I was out there this past summer with my family. Every summer we do a family trip somewhere. And this past year, we went out to the Olympic Peninsula and ended up in Mount Rainier. And I took everybody here, and I got everybody. Well, not everybody. Some people stayed behind to sleep, but we got there for sunrise to be able to make these images. And you guys have heard me say this before, but one of the biggest tips I always tell people when you're in a workshop or you're out photographing is to move around. And the reason I'm saying this with the particular picture is because this past summer when I was there was a workshop going on at the same time. A small workshop. I think there were 4 or 5 people. And I was just blown away by the fact that these guys, an hour before sun came up, they kind of set their tripods up and, kind of glued themselves to the ground and literally sat in the same spot, took the same image for the next 2 hours. As the light was changing, as the sun was rising and whatnot. And, and I was there, and I wasn't, I was using a tripod, but I was moving left to right, trying to find the right location, trying to find different pictures, because at the end of the day, you just don't know which image is going to work better than the others, right? You got to make sure that you are, exploring the escape, the landscape. Like Rick said, is, use your camera like a spaceship. Which is really just about moving an inch to the left, moving 5 feet to the right, moving down, getting down low, getting up high. I have another good friend that he likes to say that the world is not 6 feet tall. And that he says that because he's 6 feet. But I would say the world is not 5'8", meaning that not everything in the world should be seen from your perspective, your height perspective. You want to be moving and changing that perspective. That is one of the easiest ways and the fastest ways you can come up with a different perspective on something that may actually be kind of commonplace for most people. When I'm shooting, especially waterfowl, I tell people you need to get down on your belly. You need to crawl down and be at eye level with your subjects, because, when we shoot down at a subject from standing position, let's say a mallard will look pretty ordinary, because that's how most people are used to seeing this mallard. But you get down at eye level, you get down even below eye level, and you photograph them, and it elevates, it makes them bigger, makes them much more interesting. So move that camera around, try to find different locations to photograph, and try to come up with different compositions for the different spaces that you're trying to photograph, different landscapes.
Before you switch, Brenda says stunning. Before you switch, Steven says stunning. Moving gives you the chance to get different visual. Yep. And someone says, would you consider cropping? I always say cropping subjective, but what do you say?
Absolutely. And I, typically, yes, I'd like to try to compose the image when I'm there, but the camera has a fixed aspect ratio. And when I crop in the digital darkroom, I don't believe in fixed aspect ratios. I crop the image to the image itself, right? To optimize the image. So yes, I try to, one of the things that I always say and those of you that have been in workshops with me have heard this from me many times, is that what you want to do is right before you press that shutter, take your eye and run around the edge of the frame to make sure that you don't have anything encroaching on your image that you didn't mean to have in the image, or you're not cutting anything off, like, someone's feet or part of their head. And the other thing that does by moving your eye around the edge of the frame is that it actually breaks your or re-engages your peripheral vision. So you'll be able to see, for example, that tree coming out of someone's head a lot easier when you move around your eye, because when you're so focused on your subject, that tree that's sprouting from their head behind them kind of disappears. You don't see it. But by moving your eye around, you kind of re-engage that peripheral vision.
You know what I love about this picture? I always say, think like a painter. Like if a painter were there, what would he or she do? And I like the way you have the top of the Mount Rainier there framed with those two trees in the bottom on the left and the right. So this is like a painting to me. It's not like if one of those trees was like overlapping that, right? It would have cut out some of that beautiful reflection. So. Oh,
thank you. And you're right. I mean, that's one of the reasons why you want to be moving around, right? Because you don't know what's going to work better than other. At one point, I was further to my left, because I did want to get that whole reflection in. But, guess what happened when I did that? I didn't have any of those beautiful red flowers down at the bottom of the frame. So by positioning myself and looking at different angles and different positions, I was able to come up with a whole bunch of different compositions.
While you're switching to the next image, someone says they love the picture. Is it near the road? Actually, Juan and I hiked for 3 days. For 3 days over
3.5.
We were on the other side of the mountain, actually. No, this is you park on the road, and this is about.
You could be shooting this from your car.
Yeah.
You could be shooting. You could literally park and make this shot right from your driver's seat. This is literally, rough from the sidewalk. This road is right there. So beautiful place. You got to be there. And obviously you can tell why it's called Reflection Lakes. There's 2 little lakes there. You got to be there right before sunrise. You want to be there before sunrise because that's when the light's going to be nice. And what happens here is this area is protected. So the water is just perfectly calm, and it's like a mirror. It's absolutely stunning. Beautiful place.
Hey, Juan, I want to share a comment from Jim Griggs on Facebook. I close my eyes for a few seconds and then open up and imagine the photo on the wall at home, looking for too much stuff or distractions. So visualization, composition and visualization.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. For me, photography is the art of subtracting, right? Taking out those things that are distracting in the image and making them as simple as possible. Convey your message with as few words as possible, if you will. This is another example of that. For me, I love waterfalls. I started kind of my photography workshop leading career running waterfall photography workshops. I used to do this in North Carolina for many, many years. I haven't done those in quite a while, maybe like 8 to 10 years, actually. And I've done them in different places. This actually is in Pennsylvania. So I've actually used to lead photography workshops, waterfall workshops in Pennsylvania and in West Virginia. And for me, waterfalls just convey a sense of calmness and kind of, the closest that I get to Zen. I kind of make fun of Rick saying that he'll have a hard time meditating. And I can say that because I'm the same way. My mind is always going. It's always going on. It's always racing. So I've tried meditating and I can't really do it. The closest I get is, as you heard from that quote that I read earlier. But, falling water, moving water, kind of puts me in a trance, if you will, in a good trance, in that it allows me to sort of focus. Everything else melts away. It just, to me, is completely mesmerizing. And one of the things I really like about this image is not just the water and the flow that the water's taking, but is the fact that I have a nice foreground element that's adding to the scene. And the fact that they're in motion as well adds a sense of motion to the image as well. So, one of the biggest tenets of landscape photography is layering, right? You want to have a foreground, a middle ground, and a background at least. And this image has all those elements as well as motion and direction towards you.
Hey, Juan, someone has a question and then I have a comment. Someone says, beautiful scene. I like the exposure and the water and the long exposure, but he's, who is it? I can't see. Oh, it's from Phyllis.
Phyllis.
Phyllis says, what about blurring the foreground? When is it like those leaves are blurred? When is it acceptable?
Well, I mean, that's subjective, right? Is, I shoot for myself and, I shoot for something that I like. So for me, I love the fact that those ferns have that little bit of motion. As a matter of fact, I've gone to this place many times. I've led, lots of workshops at this place, and I've gone on my own. And, sometimes you do get a nice breeze going through there. So that's what happened in this particular shot. But other times I've been there and the air was completely still and I missed that motion in the ferns. So I actually blew on the ferns to actually impart a little bit of motion on those ferns. So I do like the motion. Again, if you're shooting for yourself, it's really what you like is, if you like it, if you like them to be perfectly still, you can. Now, the challenge is that, this image is probably at least half a second long to get that nice milky water. So if there's the tiniest of breezes, you're going to get some motion in those leaves no matter what.
If I could share another quote relating to exactly what you said, Juan, while this picture is up. It's by Lord Snowden, who was a photographer that I knew in 1978. Interviewed him at a studio photography when I was the editor. He said, I don't, and I think this is important because you're really saying the same thing. And I think everyone listening could think about this. He said, I don't care about the audience. I am the audience.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think I talked about that last time, right? Is, my photography, many moons ago, I attribute my biggest progress in photography to the day that I stopped shooting for other people and I started shooting for myself. I started shooting about the things that I cared about because I was making images of things that I cared about, that I knew something about, that I could, really convey information about. When you're shooting for other people of subjects that you have no passion for, I think it reflects on your work. It's kind of like what you're saying, Rick, right? Is you can tell how you're feeling by looking at your subjects.
Well, also it's that, this is one of the reasons why we're really saying the same things. You, like I said, you have to fall in love with the subject, and you fell in love with this scene. And you said, I'm sure you said in your brain, consciously or subconsciously, I'd love to get this picture. So there's only one thing I don't like about this picture, and it's this: I didn't take it. It's beautiful.
Maybe we'll make a trip out there someday. We'll pick up Alec along the way.
In
Pennsylvania.
Linda,
and then
I was going to ask you where it is.
Oh, that's a secret. That's a secret. I'd have to kill you.
You'll have to. I was going to say you have to blindfold me and throw me in the back of the trunk of the car.
No, this is actually in Ricketts Glen State Park. Just an absolutely beautiful, amazing place.
Freddie Clark is not too far either. So we could take individual cars.
Maybe we should make a trip, make it a road trip. I usually go take my Airstream out there. When I would run the workshops there, I'd take my Airstream. There's a campground there. It's a beautiful campground. And I stay in my Airstream. So here's another one. This is actually in Scotland. And this was really, absolutely planned to the second, right? We knew exactly when the sun was going to peek in through the clouds. And this was totally dumb luck more than anything. We were driving on a way from one location to another. And, we saw this scene unfolding as the clouds were moving pretty fast and the sun rays, the God rays were coming in across the landscape. And we halted, super fast to try to get this image. I was leading a workshop in Scotland, again, in the Isle of Skye. And for me, it just what this image conveys to me and what I was trying to convey when I was making this image is, that the world is greater than ourselves. There's more to the world than us. And one of the things I was waiting for, and I was making images along the way, but what I was really waiting for is for those rays to fall on that farm so that it could give you that sense of wonder and I wonder about the universe and, what else is out there beyond us.
And that one's going to tell you how he did that in Photoshop. You know what, Juan? This is a beautiful image. You have a lot of good, a lot of really nice comments. Two people said Jesus light, and Susan was listening over at the house there. I call these God rays, right? I think
rays, right? Yeah.
It technically called crepuscular waves, rays.
I don't know what they are.
I think technically that's what they're called. So Susan and I were doing a workshop in Iceland, and we saw these beautiful rays like that. I'm just sharing the story. I'm not making a judgment or anything. And Susan will back me up on this. I said, look at those God rays. And the person actually said to me, she said, don't use that term. I'm an atheist. I'm not kidding. I am not kidding. If Susan types the comments, you'll see. I mean, right?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to have fun.
Right. I mean, I'm not a religious person, and I call them God
right,
rays.
right.
So
it's really beautiful.
But to me, it's more about that there's
Right.
something bigger than ourselves in this world. Whatever it is, whatever your belief is, it doesn't matter. It's really more that there's, the phrase that we keep hearing over and over again in these crazy times, that I think we've heard it so much it's starting to lose its meaning, is that we're all in this together, right? But to me, it's like there's something bigger than ourselves, and that's what this image makes me think about.
Well, this is what I think.
To me, it's a peaceful image. It makes me kind of zen, if you will.
Yeah, like you're connecting with this. I see Linda Marshall over there smiling, and whether it's a people photograph or a wildlife photograph or a landscape photograph, I mean, think about the power of the picture and how we connect. I think if I'll just say some of the people on TV were photographers, maybe we'd be in a better position.
This is another landscape, and this is actually one of my absolute favorite places. And I found this really by happenstance, by a tip from somebody. This is actually in Glacier National Park, and it's a very seldomly visited part of Glacier National Park. You actually have to drive on a dirt road for about an hour and a half, 2 hours to get to this place, and oftentimes you think you're absolutely lost. The bears are going to come out of the woods and they're going to eat you alive. And there's this beautiful campground in this lake. And the light, I'm telling you, every time I've been there, every time I've led a workshop there, or every time I visited there on my own, or would go there with family, the light in the morning for sunrise is just absolutely spectacular. Some of the best light I've ever photographed. And then you can shoot in any kind of direction, and you get this incredible reflection on the water and just incredible clouds in the sky. It seems like every morning that I've been there, and I've been there over a dozen times, the sky is absolutely gorgeous, beautiful.
Hey,
again,
Alan,
to me, it's conveying a sense of peace and tranquility. And, that reflection is actually so perfect. You actually can't even tell which way is up and which way is down.
yeah, I think if you flip that, you wouldn't know. But this will make you feel good, Juan. David says, wow. Bonnie says beautiful and calming. So that'll make Linda happy. Linda Marshall says stunning. Phyllis says amazing. Arlene says, what lake is this? And David says, can you take an Uber there?
Can't take an Uber. Well, maybe you can. You'd have to pick up the Uber. I don't know, like at 4 in the morning or 3 in the morning to get there for sunrise. But I knew someone was going to ask me, and I am, I think hanging out with Rick, I've picked up his CRS. And his, if anybody knows what CRS is, CRS stands for can't remember shit. I picked up his CRS disease, and I knew someone's going to ask me, and I forget the name of the lake right now, but I'll think of it and I'll try to post in the comments before we go.
I think you also picked up another one of my other problems, OCD, obsessive cropping disorder. Like I see this picture. This picture is beautifully cropped in like the HD TV format, and so I love the cropping on this. And I think cropping gives us this. So like I don't want to mention his name. Someone I teach with that Photoshop world is totally against cropping, but cropping gives us a second chance at composition, right? Why would you want the boring stuff at the top and the bottom in? I mean, This is a winner. I think this is the favorite image. They would love to be there right now. Social distance, the light on the ridge. You know, that's Tommy Armstrong. Tommy, thank you so much for posting so many amazing pictures on the phototherapy site. I actually look at all of them as Alec does, and Juan is now a moderator. He says the light on the ridge is what makes it special to me. And I think on the left there, right? That's it.
Yeah, and you know, and you're right about the composition, right? Because or the cropping. I crop all of my images like I mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
and I crop them all to the image itself. And one of the things I like most about cropping is cropping a panoramic aspect ratio. I feel that a panoramic aspect ratio gives you a lot more. It makes the image more dynamic and more movement in the scene. So that's why you'll see the vast majority of my landscape images are cropped in a more panoramic aspect ratio. Okay, so let's take I think we're going to do one more. So I didn't get to the animals. So I think this is the last of my landscapes, but we're kind of running out of time here. We're actually at 6 o'clock already. And this is actually my little secret spot in Yellowstone National Park. It's actually outside of Yellowstone National Park. And it's one of my favorite trees to photograph when we have a beautiful sunset in this area of the park.
We did this together.
And I photographed this tree in all sorts of different conditions. I photographed them with the Milky Way behind it, doing astrophotography with the tree in the foreground. It almost looks like, you know, someone painted this tree. That is so perfect in the way that it's shaped.
We did this together on our trip.
Say it again?
We did this together. I was there when you took this picture, I think.
No. This is winter. Look at all the snow.
Oh, okay. Hey, listen, I know you say we're running out of time, but no one's leaving. So why don't you show some wildlife pictures? People are loving this.
Yeah. Hey, Rick, it sounds like you're having, does everybody have no issues with Rick's audio?
Nothing changed.
Alec, can you hear him?
I hear him fine.
Okay, I guess it's me then.
Maybe the
is getting
batteries
a
are
little
going
bit
in your
of,
earbuds.
chopping in the audio. So
Audio is good.
Okay, so let's do one more.
Yeah.
And this is obviously a grizzly bear cub with its mama. And one of the reasons I wanted to show this is to kind of show that connection between, you know, the cub and its mother. And I think that's something that, you know, we can use a little bit more of during these times. When Rick suggested this topic for this session, you know, this is immediately one of the images that I thought, because you could tell I've observed this cub and its mother for 3 years in a row. I saw it from when it was just a year old to when it was about 4 years old, getting ready to wean from its mother. And you know, to me, if you came on the other sessions, I talked about, you know, one of the things that this does, you know, for me, wildlife photography is, you know, for me, the most important part of wildlife photography is the moment, experiencing the moment, being in the moment, and soaking it all in. And for me, just watching, you know, this devoted mama bear with its cubs, it had the twin cubs. This is one of the 2 cubs. Really just melted my heart every year that I went to see her with a cub, because she was so devoted to its 2 cubs. And you can tell right from this image, you know, that how this cub is so, you know, was looking for its mother for protection. You know, it was kind of funny because I was down, kind of down low. I can't remember if it was on my belly when I was sitting down when we were on these grizzlies. And these grizzlies, the location where I was running this workshop was a place where the, you know, bears come right up to you. You know, these bears literally were sometimes 3-4 feet away from us, and they're grizzly bears. But they're, you know, the river is chock full of salmon, so we don't taste as good as salmon. So they don't want to bother. They don't want to bother with us. They ignore us really more than anything. And you know, we saw these cubs coming, and I think I have a picture here. Nope, let me see if I can find the picture of this cub just moments before. Here's a picture of that cub moments before, as it was coming towards us. I think I showed this picture earlier. As this cub was coming in towards me, it hadn't noticed me, and I was kind of getting a little concerned because, you know, I thought, oh my God, if the mama sees this bear, this cub get too close to me, she's gonna lose her top, and I'm gonna be toast. Because I was either, I can't remember, I was laying down on my belly or sitting down. I think I was sitting down, and I said, there's no way I'm gonna get up quick enough. I'm gonna be just, you know, just lunch meat. But as soon as this, and this is the moment when this cub noticed me. It actually saw me, and all of a sudden it just bolted straight to its mother. And this was the resulting image. Once it's got to its mother, it kind of was looking me over saying, you know, don't come near me. I got my mom right here.
Hey, Juan, a couple of things. People are loving these shots. They asked if you got a model release.
So again, to me, this was about the connection between the mother and the and the cub, and you know, that maternal connection, that unconditional love that the cub is experiencing from its mother.
Well, if you could leave that up for a second, a couple of things. Some people were saying that, you know,
Okay, I think
the eyes are amazing. People are loving.
that's
People
all
are loving
for this session.
Pardon? Hello?
Juan?
Go ahead, Rick.
I was saying people were loving the shot that the eyes are, you know, tack sharp, and that's what we do with people photography.
Yeah, my audio is kind of messed up. I can hardly hear you.
I don't know why. Everyone else can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay.
yeah.
Anyway, if we could go back to that picture, or if you just want to leave the group up, that's fine too. And you know me with my quotes and my expressions, and it's a Buddhist expression, and that picture reminds me of it. And I think in these times, these crazy times, I turned on the news this morning. Again, when I was talking to Alex, I was like a little distressed and whatever. Anyway, and Linda and Juan, there's an expression. I think that picture sums it up. Can we put that back or not?
Which one?
Of the
Last
mom, of the mommy and the cub.
Yeah, I can do that. Hold on. There we go.
And here's the expression. And the expression is, love the whole world as a mother loves her only child.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, Linda liked that.
Okay. So, hey, folks, everybody was at some, I saw in the comments that people were asking about the lake. This is Bowman Lake, the lake, the image that I showed earlier. It's Bowman Lake, which is on the west side of the park. So you guys can see that. Sorry, I just looked it up. I just couldn't remember. Again, I blame Rick for my case of CRS.
So some people are saying cheers and thanks and so. And anyway, Phyllis Webster, I think she's going to be smiling when I make this announcement. Phototherapy Tuesday is going to be hosted by Juan and myself, and we're going to be reviewing. The expression "enough about me." Well, enough about us, right, Juan? On Phototherapy Tuesday, we're going to be reviewing on the. So if you're, I think everyone here is a member of the Phototherapy group Facebook page. Anyway, we're going to be reviewing, commenting on our members' pictures. So I see Phyllis there. You happy now? Happy now, Phyllis? Okay. And Linda noticed that too. So anyway, post your pictures on the Phototherapy Facebook page. The theme this week, Alec, what did we decide it's going to be?
It's going to be both shadows and landscapes because we didn't get to the shadows this past week.
Okay, so shadows and landscapes. Really, we have to thank Juan for putting this all together. As he knows, I'm not that technical. Alec, how many people did you have to kick out so we didn't get Zoom bombed?
We did not get Zoom bombed, and I was having such a good time watching. I forgot to close the meeting. So I'd say that we are... I'd say we had a very smooth day, and I'm glad to see all the smiling faces and the comments. People had a great time and a great way to end the week.
Yeah, it was good. Well, listen, everyone, stay safe. Don't watch the news, and think positive. And tune into Linda on Monday at noon, and then Tuesday at 3:01.
At 3, yeah, we're doing.
Your pictures, not our pictures. We're not going to show one of our pictures.
Right. It's all about your picture. So make sure to go to the Phototherapy website or group and post your pictures there. There's an announcement, right, on the meeting, right, Alec?
There will be.
Yeah, there is. And please tag your images.
Yes, that's
Some of
yeah,
you are
the-
getting really good at tagging your images.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, there's a topic, right? You have to put a topic, landscape, people, whatever. So anyway, thank you, everyone. I know it's getting near dinner time. Juan and Alec and I are going to connect on Skype right after this. Juan's going to invite us in. So thank you, everybody, so much. We love you. And
Thank you, folks. Thank you for joining us.
as I said at Woodstock, peace, love, and joy.
Take care, people.
And love the whole world like a mother loves her only child.